Level 1. The neighborhood kid. You grow up on a block where everybody knows everybody, not because they're friendly, because they're watching. You're 12 years old. Maybe it's a crumbling row house in South Philly, maybe a tiny apartment in Bensonhurst, maybe the south side of Chicago, maybe East Harlem, where the radiator bangs all night and the walls are so thin you can hear your mother crying over unpaid bills in the kitchen. Your father works construction, or in a warehouse, or maybe he doesn't work at all anymore. Money is always tight. The power gets shut off a couple times a year. You wear your older brother's sneakers until your toes push through the front. Dinner is pasta almost every night because pasta is cheap. Meat is for Sundays. Christmas is the only time your mum buys you new clothes. And even then, it's clearance rack stuff from a discount store that smells like dust and mothballs. But after a while, you start noticing something. There are men on your block who don't live like this. They wear leather jackets, gold chains, heavy watches that catch the streetlights when they move their hands. They drive Cadillacs, Lincolns, big shiny cars that look completely out of place in a neighborhood where everybody else is barely surviving. And while everyone else is clocking in for work at 7 a.m, these guys are sitting outside the social club drinking espresso like they own the whole damn city. People treat them differently. When they walk into a restaurant, the owner comes out personally to shake their hand. When they speak, people listen. And when they get angry, people disappear. You don't fully understand what they do. You just know one thing. They have power. And power means never worrying about the electric bill. Power means your mother never has to sit at the kitchen table crying ever again. So, you start running errands for them. Little things at first. Take a package from the social club to the barber shop 3 blocks away. Don't open it. Don't ask questions. Just deliver it. So, you do. And the guy at the barber shop slips you $20. $20. Your father breaks his back for half a day to make that kind of money. You made it in 10 minutes just walking down the street. That's the moment something changes inside you. After school, you start hanging around the social club more often. The older guys let you sit in the corner. They buy you sandwiches. Ask about school. Ask about your grades. But deep down, you know they don't actually care about your grades. They're studying you. Can this kid keep his mouth shut? Is he loyal? Is he hungry enough? And you are hungry. Not just for food. You're hungry for respect, for status, for the feeling that your life might actually mean something. Because you don't want to end up like everybody else on the block. Broke, exhausted, invisible. The men see that hunger in your eyes because they used to be you. Every single one of them sat in that same corner 30 years earlier, eating the same sandwich, staring at powerful men with the exact same look in their eyes. The cycle has been spinning for generations. Now it's your turn. They just need to figure out whether you're the right kind of hungry. Level 2. The associate. Now you're 17. You dropped out of school. At least that's the story you tell yourself. That school had nothing left to teach you. But the truth is, school was for kids headed toward college, office jobs, interviews, normal lives. You already chose a different future. Now you work for a crew, not officially. There's no contract, no ceremony, no boss sitting you down and welcoming you in. You're just an associate, which means you're useful, but disposable. You do whatever they tell you. You collect debts for the crew now, not from rich people, not from businessmen in suits, from desperate people. Degenerate gamblers drowning in sports bets. Small business owners who couldn't get approved for a bank loan. Guys who needed cash fast for reasons they never fully explain. They all borrowed the money, knowing the rules. 3 points a week. Miss a payment, the interest keeps growing. Miss too many. Somebody knocks on your door. That somebody is you. The crew teaches you something early. Always be polite first. So you knock calmly. You smile. You remind them what they owe. You explain the situation like it's just business. Most people pay after the first visit. The ones who don't, they get a second visit. And the second visit is never polite. You start working the gambling operations too. Backroom card games hidden behind family restaurants. Sports betting before it became legal. Numbers running through old neighbourhoods where people still play the same underground lottery their grandparents played 40 years earlier. Sometimes you stand at the door all night, checking faces, making sure nobody walks in who shouldn't. Sometimes you drive the bagman collecting envelopes full of cash from bookmakers across the city. Sometimes you sit in smoke-filled apartments counting stacks of money while the TV blasts at full volume to drown out the conversation. And for the first time in your life, you've got money. Real money. More money than your father ever made working honest jobs. You buy your mother a brand new refrigerator when the old one finally dies. You buy clothes that actually fit. Fresh sneakers. Tailored jackets. Gold chains. You start getting waved into clubs without waiting in line because the bouncers recognize the people you walk in with. And suddenly, people look at you differently. Especially women. You've got cash now, confidence, and that dangerous edge, the one you practiced in the mirror for years until it stopped being an act and became part of who you are. But no matter how good life starts to feel, there's one thing you never forget. You're not a made guy. Not yet. You're not protected. If the cops arrest you, you pay for your own lawyer. If another crew stomps you out in the street, nobody's required to avenge you. If you catch a bullet tomorrow, they'll send flowers to your funeral and replace you by Friday. That reality stays in the back of your mind every second. You're useful, but replaceable. So you work harder. You take every job they offer. You never complain. You never ask questions. You keep your mouth shut and prove yourself over and over again, hoping somebody higher up notices. Because in your head, you can already see the future. One day, you'll be the guy sitting outside the social club in the folding chair. One day, people will say your name with respect instead of barking orders at you. One day, nobody will dare look down on you again. You just have to stay patient. You just have to stay loyal. You just have to survive long enough. Level 3. The soldier. And eventually, someone notices. After 6 years of proving yourself. After 6 years of collecting debts, guarding card games, moving money, driving the right people to the right places. After keeping your mouth shut through 2 arrests, you took the charges, did 8 months in county, and never said a word. Not to the cops, not to the prosecutors, not even to your own lawyer. That's when they decide, you're throwing ready. The ceremony feels ancient, older than America itself. They say it goes all the way back to Sicily, the old country, when loyalty was sealed in blood and betrayal meant death. You stand in a dimly lit room with the boss, the underboss, the consigliere, and the capo who vouched for you. Nobody smiles. Nobody speaks unless they have to. The air feels heavy. Then they prick your finger. A drop of blood rolls down your hand. They place a picture of a saint in your palm and light it on fire. You hold it there while the flame burns hotter and hotter, curling the paper, scorching your skin. And as the fire eats through the image, you swear the oath. An oath of loyalty. An oath of silence. An oath that binds your life to theirs forever. Because from this moment on, you don't belong to yourself anymore. You recite the oath with the burning saint still sitting in your palm. Your voice stays steady even while the flame bites into your skin. You swear loyalty to the family above everything else. Above your wife, above your children, above your parents, above your own blood, above your own life. This thing comes first. La Cosa Nostra. This thing of ours. And just like that, everything changes. You're not just another guy running errands anymore. You're made. A soldier in the family. A real one. That status changes the way the world sees you overnight. Now, you're protected. Nobody can touch you without permission from the boss. Nobody can make a move against you unless it's sanctioned from the top. Killing a made man without authorization. That's a death sentence. That rule is one of the few things holding the entire system together. Now you've got associates under you. 5, maybe 6 guys doing the same jobs you used to do years ago. Collecting debts, running errands, standing guard outside card games, trying to prove they're loyal enough to move up. And now they look at you the same way you once looked at the older guys sitting outside the social club. You oversee part of the family's business now. Maybe it's gambling operations spread across the neighborhood. Maybe it's a loan sharking book, pulling in weekly interest payments. Maybe it's an entire strip of local businesses paying protection money every Friday just to avoid problems. Of course, the problems usually come from you if they stop paying. That's the protection racket, the oldest business model in organized crime. Create the fear, sell the safety. Money starts flowing upward through the pyramid. Your associates kick money up to you. You kick a percentage up to your capo. Your capo kicks up to the boss. Everything flows one direction, up, and now you're finally making real money. A few thousand a week sometimes, more during good months, more cash than you ever imagined as a kid staring through the window of the social club. But with money comes paranoia, because the FBI is always watching. If you're officially making $50 a day at some fake construction job, but driving a brand new Lincoln while wearing a Rolex, questions get asked. So you learn how to disappear in plain sight. You keep a low profile. You eat at the same neighborhood diners. Drive reasonable cars. Wear plain jackets. The real money stays hidden. Stuffed inside shoe boxes. Wrapped in plastic. Buried in your mother's basement, or hidden behind fake walls in apartments nobody knows about. By now, you're living 2 completely separate lives. One for the public, one for the family. And the public version of you is intentionally boring. Level 4. The capo. 10 years later, you're a captain now. A capo. You run your own crew. Maybe 10, maybe 20 soldiers beneath you. And each one has associates under them. At this point, you realize something strange. This whole thing operates exactly like a corporation, just one that kills people. Your job becomes simple: make money, keep order, solve problems. Making money means overseeing every racket your crew runs: sports betting, loan sharking, extortion, fraud, hijackings, whatever brings cash through the door. Everybody kicks a percentage upward. Your soldiers earn. You take a cut. Their associates earn. They take a cut first. The structure is a pyramid. Money flows up. Orders flow down. Keeping order is more complicated. 2 soldiers arguing over territory. A bookmaker skimming from the count. An associate gets drunk at a nightclub and disrespects somebody from another crew. Small problems become wars if nobody handles them fast. So you become judge, mediator, and executioner, all at once. Sometimes punishment is just money. Sometimes it's a beating. Sometimes it's worse. You've ordered men hurt so badly they spent months in hospital beds learning how to walk again. And sometimes you handled it personally. 2 in the morning, an empty parking garage. Concrete floors slick with rainwater and oil stains. 2 of your guys pinning someone down while you swing a baseball bat hard enough to hear bones crack through the echo of the garage walls. This is discipline. Because without fear, the whole system collapses. And now you answer directly to the highest levels. The boss, the underboss. You attend sit-downs where disputes between crews are settled quietly over espresso and cigarette smoke. Nobody raises their voice in those meetings, because the calmer the room feels, the more dangerous it usually is. Now you sit at the table, not in the corner anymore, not standing by the door, at the table. You vote on family business. You help decide who earns, who gets punished, who rises, and who disappears. You're part of the leadership now, And with power comes something nobody warns you about when you're a hungry kid staring at Cadillacs outside the social club. A target. The FBI knows exactly who you are. Somewhere in a federal building, your face is pinned to a board under fluorescent lights. Strings connect your photograph to your soldiers, your associates, your capo, maybe even the boss himself. They're building a case. They're always building a case. And the worst part? You know there are informants inside your crew. There have to be. You just don't know who. Maybe it's the associate who suddenly stopped gambling. Maybe it's the soldier who started going to church after his arrest. Maybe it's the guy who laughs too hard at every joke and avoids eye contact afterward. Paranoia becomes part of your bloodstream. You stop talking on phones. You stop talking in cars. Meetings happen in parks, in basements, in the back rooms of bakeries where the roar of industrial ovens drowns out conversation. You speak in fragments now, half sentences, code words, tiny hand gestures. A nod means yes. A glance means no. Silence means danger. Your entire life becomes a whisper. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is finally quiet and everybody else is asleep, a thought crawls into your mind. Was it worth it? You bury the thought immediately. You always do. Because in this life, doubt is weakness. And weakness gets noticed. Level 5. The underboss. The boss chooses you. Out of every capo in the family, you're the one he trusts most. Or maybe just the one he distrusts the least. In this world, those are basically the same thing. Now, you're the underboss. Second most powerful man in the family. From the outside, it looks like you finally won. But this is where the pressure becomes unbearable. The boss stays insulated. That's the whole point. He doesn't meet directly with soldiers anymore. He avoids unnecessary conversations. He never touches money, drugs, weapons, or anything prosecutors can put in front of a jury. Everything flows through you. You are the firewall, the shield. If law enforcement comes crashing through doors at 6 in the morning, they hit you first. That's not an accident. That's the job. You manage every capo in the organization. You settle disputes before they turn into bloodshed. You approve major rackets. You authorize violence. Nothing important happens without your knowledge. And the money? It's enormous now. Hundreds of thousands a year. Sometimes more. You own a beautiful house in the suburbs with a pool nobody swims in. You've got a wife who stopped asking where the money comes from years ago. Kids in private school who proudly tell people their father works in construction. You finally achieved the dream that 12-year-old kid imagined all those years ago. But the dream feels different once you're inside it. He imagined power. He never imagined fear. You haven't slept through the night in years. Every knock on the door feels like the FBI with a warrant. Every unexpected phone call feels like disaster. Every conversation feels dangerous. One of your guys gets arrested. Now you're wondering if he's scared enough to cooperate. One of your oldest friends suddenly starts acting nervous. Now you're wondering if he's wearing a wire. You stop trusting everyone. Eventually, you even stop trusting yourself. And then there's the thing that changed everything. RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. A law built specifically to destroy organizations like yours. Before RICO, prosecutors had to catch you committing crimes directly. Now, they just have to prove you're part of a criminal enterprise. Every gambling operation, every extortion payment, every beating, every dollar stolen by some low-level associate 3 neighborhoods away. It all rolls uphill. Straight to you. Straight to the boss. The prosecutors are patient. They'll spend 10 years building a case if they have to. They flip associates first, then soldiers, then captains. One by one, the walls start collapsing inward. Men who once swore blood oaths in candlelit rooms are suddenly sitting in courtrooms under fluorescent lights, pointing directly at you from the witness stand. The old code is dying. Omertà used to mean something. Silence. loyalty, respect. Now guys wear wires to save themselves 20 years. And you can feel it happening in real time. The old world is disappearing. The traditions, the rules, the illusion of honour. It's all rotting away. But by now, you're trapped too deep inside the machine to escape it. Because there's one thing nobody tells you when you first walk into the social club as a kid. The door only swings one way. By now, you understand the truth nobody says out loud. There is no retirement plan in this life. You crossed too many lines, heard too many secrets, buried too many problems for too many powerful people. You know names, addresses, payments, bodies. Men have gone to prison forever over things you remember casually while drinking coffee. At this point, there are only two exits left: a prison cell or a cemetery. Everybody knows it. Nobody says it. Level 6, the consigliere. Now you've become something different. You're no longer the guy kicking down doors or collecting envelopes. You're the advisor, the counsellor, the one man in the family who can look the boss in the eye, tell him he's wrong, and live to talk about it afterward. That makes your role unique. You don't command soldiers directly. You don't run street operations. You rarely touch money yourself. You deal in strategy. While everybody else sees small pieces of the machine, you see the entire thing. The boss wants to go to war with another family over territory. You tell him to slow down. You explain the cost. Not just bodies, attention, federal surveillance, wiretaps, task forces, newspaper headlines. You remind him that sometimes a war destroys the winner faster than the loser. The boss wants to expand into a new racket. You calculate risk versus profit like a corporate executive. You connect him to lawyers who can bury paperwork, accountants who can clean dirty money, politicians who owe favours going back 20 years. That's where your real power comes from. Connections. Any idiot with anger in his veins can pull a trigger. Very few men can make a federal indictment disappear with one phone call over dinner. You exist in two worlds at once. 1 foot in organised crime, 1 foot in legitimate society. Judges know your name. Union leaders shake your hand. Police captains pretend not to notice certain things. Some of them have been taking envelopes for decades, and because of your position, you hear everything, every secret, every betrayal, every hidden grave nobody else talks about. You know where every body is buried, sometimes literally. That makes you indispensable and incredibly dangerous, because everybody understands one terrifying truth. If you ever decided to cooperate with the government, the entire family could collapse in a single afternoon. The boss knows that. You know that too. Which means trust becomes something strange. Not friendship, not loyalty, mutual destruction. You know his secrets. He knows yours. You're like two men sitting across from each other, holding knives under the table, smiling while both wondering who's going to move first. And after enough years in this world, you stop sleeping deeply. One eye always stays open. Level 7. The boss. Now you sit at the top. The boss. The Don. The Godfather. Whatever name people whisper when they think you're not listening. You pretend to hate those gangster movies. But sometimes, at 2 a.m, alone in your den with a glass of whiskey in your hand, you watch them anyway. Because somewhere deep down, you still remember the kid you used to be. The kid staring at powerful men outside the social club, dreaming about becoming one of them. And now, you control an empire worth hundreds of millions. Sports betting, loan sharking, construction scams, union corruption, extortion, money laundering through businesses you technically own but rarely visit. Even the drug trade touches your world now, though never directly. You're too smart for direct contact. Everything moves through layers, always layers. Hundreds of men answer to you through a chain of command as rigid as the military. Your word becomes law. When you give an order, nobody asks questions. When you make a decision, it stands. When you pronounce judgment, somebody carries it out. And on the surface, your life looks perfect. A beautiful home in a wealthy neighborhood where every lawn is perfectly trimmed and nobody asks where the money came from. Luxury cars, tailored suits, private tables at restaurants where owners refuse to hand you the check. Trips to Italy where distant relatives treat you like visiting royalty from the old country. You donate money to charities, sponsor little league teams, shake hands at community events. Every Sunday, you sit in church wearing expensive cologne and a polished suit while the priest greets you warmly at the front door. You kiss his hand. Sometimes he kisses yours back. And in your neighborhood, people love you, or at least they love what you represent. Power, protection, success. To them, you're not a criminal. You're the local kid who made it out. In your neighborhood, people call you a good man. You pay for funerals when families can't afford them. You hand cash to struggling mothers without making a scene. You help kids get union jobs. You settle arguments before they turn violent. When the city fails, you step in. That's why they love you. Not because they don't know what you are, because they do. And deep down, everybody understands the same unspoken truth. Your generosity always comes with a price. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but favours in this world never expire. Still, despite all the power, all the respect, all the money, you are the loneliest man in every room you enter because nobody tells you the truth anymore. Not your underboss, not your consigliere, not your captains. They tell you what they think you want to hear. They nod too quickly, laugh too hard at your jokes, agree before you finish speaking. And the second they leave the room, they say what they really think to their own crews. You know they do. Because years ago, you did the exact same thing to the boss before you. That's the curse of power in this world. The higher you climb, the less honesty survives around you. So your paranoia grows. But the scary part, it isn't irrational. It's earned. Because every boss eventually falls. Some get murdered by their own people. Some spend the rest of their lives in prison. Some simply grow old, weak, slow, and eventually a younger man starts staring at them, the same way you once stared at the old guys outside the social club, hungry, calculating, waiting. There's no retirement in this life, no pension, no farewell party, no peaceful ending. You rule until you can't anymore. And the men beneath you spend every day quietly measuring how close you are to breaking. Level 8. The informant. This is the level nobody talks about. But it's the level that explains everything. Because, eventually, fear catches up to almost everybody. You're still inside the family, still attending meetings, still kissing cheeks, still whispering business across restaurant tables while waiters pretend not to hear. But now there's a wire taped to your chest underneath your shirt. The FBI got to you. Maybe they raided one of your properties. Maybe somebody flipped. Maybe they hit you with recordings, bank statements, surveillance photos. Doesn't matter. What matters is they showed you the future. Life without parole. A concrete cell until your hair turns grey and your body gives out. No more family dinners. No watching your kids grow older. No holding your future grandchildren. Just steel doors and fluorescent lights until you die forgotten in federal custody. Then they offered you a deal. Cooperate or disappear into prison forever. And in the end, you chose to live. At least physically. Now every second of your life feels poisoned. You sit across from men you've known for 30 years. Men who would have killed for you once. and secretly record every word they say. You laugh at their jokes while federal agents listen through headphones in a surveillance van somewhere nearby. You share wine, bread, stories, all while building the case that will destroy them forever. Every conversation becomes theatre, every smile becomes fake, every handshake becomes betrayal. And the worst part is, you hate yourself more than they ever would. Because at least their hatred would be honest. Yours never stops. You start imagining discovery everywhere. Maybe somebody notices the wire. Maybe an agent makes a mistake. Maybe somebody talks. And if your cover ever slips for even 1 second, you already know how it ends. A basement, plastic sheets, hours of pain designed to make death feel merciful. You've seen it happen before. Maybe you even ordered it once. Now the fear follows you everywhere. You stop sleeping properly. Food tastes like cardboard. Every sudden noise makes your heart jump into your throat. You're alive, but only technically. The FBI tells you that you're brave. They say you're doing the right thing, saving lives, helping dismantle violent organizations. And some nights, you repeat those words to yourself like a prayer. But at 3 a.m, drenched in sweat and staring at the ceiling in total silence, you know exactly what you became. A rat. And in this world, there is nothing lower than that. Not killers, not thieves, not extortionists. Because those men may break laws. But you broke the one rule the entire world was built on. You betrayed the men who once called you brother. And the worst part? You do it again the next day. And the day after that. Because no matter how much shame eats at you, the alternative was dying in a prison cell. And deep down, beneath all the guilt and fear and self-hatred, you still wanted to live, even like this. Level 9, the prisoner. It ends the way it almost always ends. Early morning, Tuesday, federal agents at the door. The indictments hit like a bomb. 47 counts, RICO conspiracy, extortion, loan sharking, wire fraud, money laundering, murder. The government spent years building the case, and now they finally lay the whole thing on the table. Recordings, financial documents, surveillance photos, testimony from 6 cooperating witnesses, men who sat at your table, men who ate your food, men who once swore loyalty to you with tears in their eyes. Now they point at you from a witness stand under fluorescent courtroom lights. Your lawyer tries to stay optimistic at first, but eventually even he stops pretending. You're looking at life. You could fight it. Take it to trial. Roll the dice. But you've heard the tapes. Your own voice echoes back at you from government speakers. Cold, calm, clear. Orders you can't explain away. Conversations you barely even remembered having. The evidence is crushing. So, you take the plea. 30 years. You'll be 78 when you get out. If you survive that long. And prison. It's not like the old stories anymore. Not like the movies. Back in the day, connected guys could still run operations from inside. Guards could be bribed. Phones could be arranged. Messages passed quietly through visitors. But the government adapted. Now they send you somewhere built to erase people. A federal supermax in the middle of nowhere. A place surrounded by fences, cameras, concrete, and silence. You spend 23 hours a day inside a cell barely bigger than a bathroom. Your visitors are monitored. Your letters get opened. Your calls are recorded. And slowly, the world forgets you. The men who once called you boss suddenly act like they barely knew your name. Because in this life, loyalty only lasts as long as usefulness. Your family suffers too. Your wife gets a real job for the first time in decades. Your children quietly change their last name. When people ask about their father, sometimes they say you died. It hurts less than telling the truth. Meanwhile, the empire you spent your entire life building gets divided up almost immediately by younger men who were patiently waiting for this exact moment. The machine keeps moving without you. It always does. And now all you have left is time. Time to sit alone in your cell, reading legal paperwork nobody cares about. Time to write letters that never get answered. Time to replay every decision you ever made. You think about being 12 years old, that first package you delivered, that first $20 bill, the oath you swore while the saint burned in your hands, the first time you hurt somebody and realised you felt nothing afterward, the first time you ordered something worse and slept perfectly fine that night. For years you believed every step was a choice leading toward power, but eventually you realised the truth. You weren't climbing toward freedom. You were building your own cage. You just didn't notice the bars when they were invisible. By the time they became concrete, it was too late. Level 10. The ghost. Eventually, the system spits you out, or maybe it buries you inside forever. Either way, the man who leaves prison barely resembles the one who entered. Maybe you're old now, weak hands, bad knees, eyes dulled by decades of fluorescent lights and locked doors, no money, no empire, no crew waiting outside the gates, just silence. Or maybe you were one of the rare ones who escaped another way. Maybe you testified. Maybe the government buried your old identity and moved you somewhere forgettable. Arizona, Nebraska, some empty town where nobody asks questions. Now you've got a new name, a new social security number, a tiny apartment paid for by the government. Maybe you work at a hardware store, maybe a warehouse, maybe nowhere at all. And the rules are simple. Never contact anyone from your old life, not your crew, not your friends, sometimes not even your family. Because if the protection disappears, there are still people out there who would kill you without hesitation. So this becomes your life. Sitting alone in a diner at 6 a.m. in a town where nobody knows your name. Drinking weak coffee. Reading the newspaper. Listening to strangers talk about ordinary lives you'll never have. Sometimes, while sitting alone in that diner, you see an article buried somewhere in the newspaper. Another indictment. Another boss arrested. Another crime family collapsing under RICO charges, surveillance tapes, and cooperating witnesses. Same story, different names. The ending never changes. You stare at the headline a little too long while your coffee goes cold beside you. And suddenly, your mind drifts backward. Back to the neighborhood. Back to the social club where everything began. You can still see it perfectly. The folding chairs out on the sidewalk. The smell of espresso and cigarette smoke hanging in the air. The older guys in leather jackets laughing like they owned the entire world. Back then, they looked untouchable, like kings. Now you wonder what happened to all of them. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they died in prison. Maybe they're sitting in diners just like this one, somewhere far away under fake names, eating eggs alone while pretending to be somebody else. And sometimes, when the silence gets too loud, you let yourself think about the life you never had. What if you stayed in school? What if you ignored those men outside the club? What if you never carried that first package? Never took that first $20 bill? Maybe you would have had a normal life, a boring life. But maybe boring was the real luxury all along. Still, deep down, you know the truth. The moment you took that money, something inside you changed forever, and every step afterward felt inevitable. You just couldn't see it yet. Nobody ever can. Because somewhere, right now, on a block in South Philly, or Bensonhurst, or Chicago, there's another 12-year-old kid watching expensive cars pull up outside a social club, watching powerful men step onto the sidewalk while everybody else quietly moves out of their way. The kid notices the watches first, then the suits, then the respect. Most importantly, he notices the power. He doesn't see the prison cells. He doesn't see the FBI recordings or the panic attacks at 3 a.m. or the bodies hidden beneath concrete foundations. He doesn't see the old man sitting alone in a diner 1,000 miles from home with a fake name and nobody left to call. He only sees what you saw: the leather jackets, the gold chains, the confidence. And he's hungry. Not just hungry for food, hungry for respect, hungry to matter, hungry to escape becoming another invisible kid from another forgotten block. The men outside the social club notice him staring. They've seen that look before, because once upon a time, they were him too. One of them waves the kid over. Another guy buys him a sandwich. They ask his name. And just like that, the cycle begins again.